It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the business owner of Jay Stevens, who has the podcast, the Jay Stevens Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. How you doing? Happy to be here.
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you got started in the sports podcast industry?
Absolutely. Got started podcasting. It was May of 2019. I've been talking about it for about 6 to 9 months prior to that with one of my buddies at work. He was like, dude, you got to get into podcasting. You have the perfect voice for it. You have the perfect energy for it. It's your passion. Go for it. Well, there was a time period where there were nerves, the uncertainty of not knowing what to expect, how to formulate a show, what to talk about. You know what to talk about, but when you say what to talk about, it's like, how do I go about this? What kind of microphone do I buy, or do I even need a microphone? Like, there are so many questions. But I started doing some research, and then Mother's Day of 2019, I said, just go for it. Like, if I fail, I fail. You don't know if you're going to be good at something unless you go out and try for it. So that was kind of like the little push for it. I wish I would have started years ago, but once you start something, sometimes we started at the right time. And starting when I did seem like the perfect storm for me. But yeah, man, 15, 16, however many months it's been since I started. About to celebrate episode 150 in about a month or so. So I'm pretty excited for the future and what has happened since I started the podcast.
What are some of the segments that you have on your podcast?
Okay. Segments wise, I do 4 segments every single day. It is a solo show, so it's me by myself. When I go solo on Mondays, there's 4 different topics, generally basketball or football related. There are some baseball, there are some hockey. I mean, I will try to get the entire scope of sports, but primarily it is a lot of basketball, a lot of football. On Thursdays, it is a interview style show. So I'll have someone to come in, interview them, discuss one specific topic. But on today's show, I got basketball. Lakers just won the finals. Football, we're going to talk about the Tennessee Titans situation with COVID-19. Talk about some Red River rivalry and how the drama there was satisfying to my sports loving self. And then there's a 4th topic. I think it may be minor league baseball, something with the Supreme Court. I tried not to do the same topic that everybody else is doing in the mainstream sports world. I tried to deviate and do something a little bit different to make it something that's not, the same thing over and over and over. My own flavor, topics that are a little bit different, but they're still intriguing that people keep coming back to listen to the podcast.
Who are some people that you've interviewed in the past?
Okay, good question. For episode 100, I mentioned 150 is coming up. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, so I have a local guest for that one. But I had Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star, the main paper here in Indianapolis, a sports columnist there. He came on for episode 100. I was able to interview play-by-play broadcaster Ian Eagle. Phenomenal guy, very funny. And I think he's someone that if you get a chance to talk to him, it's a guy that I think everyone could learn from, not if you're in sports or even out of sports. You can learn a lot from him. Recently had the opportunity to interview a former player at the University of Notre Dame, former football player, Daryl Flash Gordon. Flash is his nickname. I had the opportunity to interview him. If you know anything about the famous college football game, Catholics versus Convicts, Miami versus Notre Dame, he was a part of that game. And it was just fun being able to watch him, listen to him, and then also watch him as he talked about that game, as you can see the smile and somewhat the chills on his body as he's discussing that very famous game there in his life.
How do you go about getting some of the people that you've interviewed?
Email. Sometimes you have connections with people that will assist you in either getting an email address or assist you with talking to the person before I talk to them. But it's really just email addresses. Googling, you really just Google somebody. Say I know this one's on Twitter, but Adam Rittenberg from ESPN covers college football. Well, you can go to his Twitter account and see if his direct messages are open, or see if his email address is open there, or you can literally Google Adam Rittenberg email address, and there's a good possibility it may come up. So email addresses, direct messages on Twitter, I haven't done much on Instagram to reach out to people, but those two are the main ways to reach out to people. Be very, very professional like you have been, and let them know the day, the time, the length, how they would record, so they can make sure that their schedule is set up properly to hop on the podcast.
That's great advice. What are some of the things that you've done in the past that you enjoy doing for this podcast?
Oh, the interviews, man. Being a solo host, I love doing my own thing. I love just recording, and I love being able to just have my own. It's going to maybe sound weird. Have my own way with the show, because if there's a co-host or if there's someone over you, they're kind of overseeing, and it may not always be you. There may be someone saying, "Nope, you can't do that topic. You have to do this." And so I like doing my own thing. But honestly, the one thing I love more than being a solo host, I love the interviews, because it stretches me. That's a bigger challenge to me than being a solo host and doing a show solo. I could do a show solo for an hour and a half. That would not be difficult. But being able to listen, write down notes, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a pen in my hand, and normally I'm writing down notes and I'm keeping track of what they're saying, finding key points to be perfect segues from one topic to the next. That's been a challenge, but it's also been maybe one of the most enjoyable things, because I'm the host of the show. It's my show. My name's on the title. But at the same time, I am learning from these individuals at the same time, men and women. Don't discriminate. I have everybody on because everybody brings a different flavor to the show, and it's a great way to enhance the listenership and the way that the listener can enjoy the show.
What are some of your favorite moments in the podcast?
Favorite moments. Wow. Favorite moments with the podcast. Well, one was literally starting the podcast. Because I know you, Brandon, you know that once you start something, there's a sense of relief that gets off of your shoulders, and the monkey on your back or the weight on your shoulders, that is lifted. So literally that was one thing that was there, is that starting the podcast was one of them. But another one, maybe just getting behind the mic and recording, man. I'm being honest with you. Like, this is my baby. My microphone is I'm tapping it on purpose if you can hear that. This is my baby right here. And when I'm behind this, I feel a sense of, I won't say security. I won't go that far. It's a microphone. It can't like secure me. But it's a feel of enjoyment, excitement, being able to do something that I love. And that's probably the main thing. Just being able to be comfortable with what I'm doing and doing it on a consistent basis.
Have you interviewed anybody on the college level?
Actually, yes. I forgot when you asked that. So I had the opportunity to interview it was his brother, both of them together. But Jarnell Stokes used to play in the G League, NBA, played at the University of Tennessee. Well, when I interviewed him, I went on Zoom and pulled up the Zoom screen. Well, his brother was right there, Isaiah Stokes. I had no idea that Isaiah was going to be there, but Isaiah Stokes played. He was on the University of Florida roster last year, didn't get much playing time, transferred to the University of Memphis, where he's from. And I actually did have the interview to interview him. And it was fun. It was very enjoyable. Both of them love to talk. Jarnell, the older one, more than Isaiah, the gentleman that's in college. But yeah, I have him. And then also Daryl Flash Gordon, former college player at the University of Notre Dame. Both of those players, both brought something different. One's older than the other. One has kids. One does not. But both brought something different. It was fun to hear their stories and to just sit back and learn from them as you're talking about their experience in the collegiate athletic field.
What have you learned that you did not know before you started?
Hoo-wee. What did I learn that I did not know before I started? One thing that I would say that I have learned is to be adaptable and to be willing to change things at the last minute. I like to prepare. As I told you before when we were off air, I do host 3 separate podcasts: a Colts podcast, a daily Ohio State Buckeyes podcast, and then this one. And so preparation has been key. I have a notebook, which I just started, which is probably on page 15 right now, based off the amount of notes that I take either during a game or just throughout the week of topics that I want to talk about. I have maybe 6 or 7 notebooks that are over in my laundry area that I'll be utilizing as well. I handwrite everything. And that's also one thing that I did learn. Handwriting stuff for me is way better than typing it on the computer. If I handwrite it, it's easier for my brain to memorize it and remember it so that while I'm recording, I don't have to look down at my notes. So just being able to prepare and be adaptable, but also learning how to take notes and to properly prepare for every show. Imagine you doing something new, and then all of a sudden, a year and a half in, let's add something else to your plate. A week later, let's add something else to your plate. Yeah, I had the opportunity to say no, but it's a challenge, and it challenges me, and it pushes me to be better, not just as a sports podcast host, but also as an individual in just everyday life.
What are some of the future plans for your podcast, The Stay Steven Sports?
Some future plans for my baby, the Jay Stevens podcast. Continue to come twice a week, every Monday, every Thursday. Continue to have phenomenal guests. As I promised the listeners of the podcast, and I'll say it here as well, my promise is to bring top-notch guests, and maybe guests you may not have heard of, that are hosts of shows, but that'll bring a great insight, a great flavor, and enhance the listenership and the listener in the way that the listener can enjoy the podcast, because everybody brings a different point of view from their own angle. And even though it's a different angle than yours, it may open up your mind to something completely different that you may have never talked about. So future plans every Monday, every Thursday, solo me on Monday, a guest on Thursday. Every milestone, when I say milestone, 100, 150, 200, will be a big-time guest, someone that is closer to me that I think deserves that would be perfect for that particular milestone. And just to have fun, man. I promise to have fun. I'm a goofy guy. People laugh at me all the time. I have goofy segments. I have serious segments. I can change my tone from serious to mad in a hot second, if need be, on purpose to just steal the tone. And man, this ride is fun, and I have no plans to stop anytime soon.
What advice would you give upcoming future sports talk podcasts that are looking to get into the same profession?
Go for it. Don't stop. That was quick, and that was a great question, and I have a quick answer. Don't stop. Go for it. There will be times you'll want to quit. Don't do it. Keep going. There will be times that you'll think that this is too much. I can't do this by myself, or me and my co-host aren't getting along. I want to give up and throw in the towel. Don't quit. Don't quit at all. You quitting, yeah, you may quit. You may find something else you want to do, but you stop doing something that you had a strong desire to do. Don't quit at all. Keep going. I will tell you a story right now. Make it very quick because I can't be long-winded. And I do happen to talk fast if you haven't been able to tell that already. So episode number 1, I recorded that on Mother's Day, May 12th, I believe, of 2019. Well, episode number 2 was the very next week, and I was in a rut. I'm not a writer. I'm not a journalist. I do not write things after games or write articles about things that are going on in my life or things that are going on in sports. However, if I know about the term writer's block, and for day number 2, episode 2, I had the verbal form of writer's block, and nothing worked. It didn't feel right. I was uncomfortable. Every word was an or a stutter. And I have a stuttering problem. It happens. So you say, Jay, how did you get to the way that you are? You keep going. I didn't quit. After episode number 2, I truly thought I was going to quit and not keep going anymore. I'm going to have episode 142 today. Hasn't been recorded yet, but it will be up around 12 noon or early afternoon. If I would have quit after episode number 2, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to interview Ian Eagle or Daryl Gordon that used to play at Notre Dame, or Jarnell Stokes or Isaiah Stokes or Greg Doyle, or had the opportunity to interview a guy by the name of Greg Rakestraw, who I have watched over and over and over, call numerous games at a high level. I wouldn't have those opportunities. But because I didn't quit, because I stuck at it, because I challenged myself and I pushed myself to be better and be very, very adaptable, things are happening now that I never thought would happen ever. Quickly, one more thing, Brandon. I remember I mentioned Jarnell Stokes and his brother. Well, Jarnell, it was supposed to be just me and Jarnell, but Isaiah was there. Well, I could have been a young host or someone that was nervous, shaking in my boots. Oh, no, Isaiah, you got to go, man. It's only me and Darnell. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about who you are. I don't know anything about your background. I know where you're from because I was able to Google that and figure out where Darnell was from, but I don't know anything about you. So no, you can't be here. Well, Brandon, I didn't do that. I was adaptable and quickly in like a 15-second span, 10 to 15-second span. It was, do I do this or do I shut down and give up? No, I wasn't going to give up. But that was kind of in my head, like the interview could have been a flop because of my inability to adapt to the situation. Well, if I would have quit after episode 2, I would have had the opportunity. And as I continue to be adaptable and to improve and to challenge myself, opportunities like that where there's someone that you weren't planning on interviewing, they came up. And with them being there, it's like, let's just roll with it, baby. Let's have fun. Let's do this thing. That's exactly how it was, and I love every second of it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find your podcast on social media?
All right, so you can find the podcast on Instagram. That's the podcast Instagram page at J Stevens Podcast. You can follow myself on Twitter at JStevens07. That is Stevens with the PH. The JA you can see, wrong finger. The JA you can see behind me. And then the Stevens is right behind my head. JAYSTEPHENS 0 and then 7 on Twitter. And then also, if you want to listen to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your fine podcast. TuneIn Radio, radio.com. I have plenty of areas. Amazon Music. I mean, I got to keep on going. Find the podcast, search it. You'll find it. Follow it, rate, subscribe, review, all of those phenomenal things. And yeah, you can find it there. And every Monday, every Thursday, you'll find it. I'm sure you'll love it. You'll enjoy it. If you don't love it, that's fine. Not every show is for everybody, but I'm sure if you give it a shot, there's a good chance you will love it because it's rare that I get a negative review about the show.
Thank you again, Jay, for your interview, and best of luck in your sports podcast moving on in the future.
Yes, sir, Brandon. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Jay, for your interview, and best of luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.